it's an underdog, you're teasing that number up. Reason being is you're buying points, but the payout, right, is a lot. You have to pay more to get those points. So I think Tampa Bay at -6.5, teasing them down to half a point, essentially saying that they should win this game, is a place I would want to go, and maybe tease them with Kansas City, right? Kansas City, I believe, is at that same number this week at -6.5 against the Washington football team in Washington. I think that's also a place that you would want to tease both Tampa and the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe a little Super Bowl tease for you guys out there. So that's the way I'm probably looking at it. I know we'll get to props in a little bit. And also too, I don't mind actually, this is a lot. I usually never lay this amount of money. -300 on the money line for Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Seems like a pretty good, well, not pretty good, because -300 is never a great value. But again, that takes away, right, the points, takes away all of that stuff. Tampa Bay should win this game. So the money line at -300, if you're willing to do that, I don't mind it.
So Reid, if I may, and it's really a shame for the people because we had such an electric opening. Evidently, we've had some audio issues where people could look at us, but short of being able to read lips, they couldn't hear us until just before you started getting into the money line.
Man,
I don't want you to repeat everything that you just said, even though it was really good and the people deserve to hear it. But because you did give valuable information that I think people should, be knowledgeable of, as he's Reid T. Fowler. I'm Adam Kaufman. This is the Slate. If you can't, read the graphics below and you're just listening. So maybe you could give like a Cliff's Notes version of what the people should be feeling for the DK Sportsbook tonight for this Tampa Bay Philadelphia game.
Spark Notes. Don't like the spread, like the over. It's actually moved back down to 52.5. So as we were talking, it was at 53, not 52.5. Don't mind the money line at -300. I'd want to tease Tampa Bay down to 6 or to half a point, along with Kansas City to half a point. That's the only way I'm trying to play the spread, so to speak, is a tease, a 6-point tease with Tampa and Kansas City.
We can show you too what we're looking at with the DK Sportsbook. A lot of obviously what Reid just rattled off to you, but again, we'll get into some of the odds like Reid said before, which I believe you could hear. Props, we'll discuss that as well. We'll take a look at the millionaire contest available for you on DraftKings, how you should approach this game from a showdown perspective. I have worlds of questions relating to that. Reid, I just think, I don't love the 6.5. I mean, if I were to pick a side, it would be that. I would say that Tampa is going to cover, but I'm more inclined, and you were talking about this as well, I'm more inclined to target the total. I just think we're going to get a lot of points in this game. I really do. With the short turnaround, two defenses that have sort of opposite weaknesses. You can look at obviously a Tampa Bay team that is stout against the rush, although it almost doesn't matter because Philadelphia pretty much refuses to run the ball unless it's Jalen Hurts, running at the goal line or something like that. Miles Sanders barely gets any touches in the run game. Yes, he gets targeted with some passes, but it ain't Miles Sanders Madden 21 that we're talking about here, or even Madden 20 and maybe Madden 22 for all I know, that has begun for all of you out there. But it's a different world in real life for Philadelphia. Tampa Bay, of course, while very good against the run, very leaky secondary. A lot of that is attributed to injuries, but I just think this is going to be a big game for the passing offenses. I know Philadelphia is, again, like I said, it's a reversal of fortune. Philadelphia is actually pretty good against the pass, not good at all against the run. So maybe this is a huge game for Leonard Fournette, but you add it up, you put it all together, Reid, you mix it all up in the pot. I just think we're going to get a lot of points tonight. I think this is going to be a game that's going to produce 55, 60 points.
Yeah, and we've been treated to primetime games that have gone or have been shootouts and have gone over their number. Not to say that that's a trend worth noting, because they're different teams in different circumstances. No Gronk in this game. There's a question, I believe, from Miami Misfits. Is Tom Brady's throwing hand injury cause for concern? Maybe Kauf can touch on that more specifically, because Tom Brady is his father. I
was texting Dad earlier, and
but I mean, sure, right? Like when you say cause for concern, there's levels of what that means, right? Is it cause for concern for them to win the game? Probably not. I don't think so. When you have that type of team with Antonio Brown, with Mike Evans, with Chris Godwin, and I know I'm talking about pass catchers, but Lombardi, Lenny, Uncle Leo in the back. playing as well as what he did in the postseason last year, you have the ability and the depth now to mask what deficiencies Brady might have with this throwing hand. Having said that, this is Tom Brady. Like anytime you bet against Tom Brady, it's a fool's errand. And I'm not saying that that's automatically going to going to the table and the desk to say, hey, I'm going to take Tampa Bay -6.5. I'm just saying that the concern is not there for me. I'd rather attack props on the Philadelphia side because of what I think this game script is going to be like. If there is a prop that I like on the Tampa side, I like Chris Godwin to score a touchdown tonight, anytime touchdown. I believe his odds are at +140.
Happy to check that out for you.
Yeah, actually, if you go to the TD props, because you're in the
yes,
right
sir.
there, TD scores.
I gotcha.
Yep. +140. He's number 3 there on anytime scorer. Look, I mean, we talk about Mike Evans being that guy, that red zone target, right? It's just because he's a big body. We saw it last year. Chris Godwin is number 3, is 3rd in the NFL in red zone targets inside the 20. And, he's gotten more. I think he's caught 7 of 9 targets inside the 20. Inside the 5, I think he's caught, I think he's had 3 targets, maybe 3 receptions. This is what they do, man. This is kind of like I know you have Leonard Fournette there to hand the ball off to, but when you have a guy like Chris Godwin, I really like him as anytime at +140 to score a touchdown, not necessarily needing to be in the red zone to score, because we've seen him do that otherwise, right outside of the red zone. And if it's just a regular prop, a rushing prop, it's going to be Leonard Fournette over, I believe, 26.5 rushing yards. I mean, like we talked about, if that hand is an issue, right? Miami Misfits, then what do you think they're going to do? They're going to hand the ball off to Uncle Lenny a ton.
Again, so against a putrid rush defense.
Yeah.
This is like, especially, you talked about game script, and you talked about a lot of different things. So in terms of the pass catchers for Tampa Bay, it's kind of, and this is more of you could look at it in a prop sort of situation, or obviously DFS, and we'll get to DFS in the millionaire contest in a little bit, but it all sort of touches on the same stuff. Tom Brady, especially without Rob Gronkowski, and maybe Cam Brate or OJ Howard make for a decent punt play. Maybe you want to go crazy with the anytime touchdown for OJ Howard or something like that. But when it comes to the primary pass catchers, the primary wide receivers, because I'm not even including Fournette, who is obviously a pass catcher as well. The primary receivers, they're all pretty much the same in terms of what they've done this year. Antonio Brown has 3 touchdowns north of 300 yards. Mike Evans, almost 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Chris Godwin, almost 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. So all of these guys, it feels almost impossible to know, is it an Evans night? Is it a Godwin night? Is it a Brown night? Is it 2 out of the 3? I don't know how you choose specifically, because all of these guys are so even in terms of what they've done to this point in the year, Reid. As far as Brady goes,
yeah,
I know that he didn't play all of that last game against Miami when he absolutely torched the Dolphins with that thumb injury. It happened along the way, but even still, by the end, the guy finished with north of 400 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and no picks, a line he had never put up in his career. And oh, by the way, he's 44 years old. So no, I'm really not worried about Tom Brady and this thumb. I'm not. And I don't think he's going to get a whole ton of pressure to where it's going to be problematic for him. As it is, we know the guy gets the ball out quickly, and now he's got so many weapons all over the field, Reid, that QB is like the last thing that I'm concerned about on the Tampa Bay side. And that doesn't mean necessarily, going back to what Reid was saying about game script and, Philly having to probably play from behind. There'll be a lot of passing on that side. Of course, you want to lock in Jalen Hurts. At least I would think maybe Leonard Fournette or somebody like that becomes a more attractive play. Again, DFS or rushing props or whatever it may be, because they're going to be running the ball a lot more in the second half if they open up a big lead and yada, yada, yada. We know how this works. That's the kind of game I think we both expect it to be. And therefore, I don't think Brady's going to have to do too much in the second half. I really don't. Yeah.
And look, he doesn't, like you mentioned, he doesn't have to, right? He doesn't have to if their game plan goes to plan. And like, that's true. Like it's the Mike Tyson, right? Everyone has a plan before they get punched in the mouth. And look, Philly can do that, right? Jalen Hurts can do that with his legs. He can do that with his ability, and DeVonta Smith can do that against his secondary. Remember, this secondary is down a lot of starters, 3, I think, to be exact.
Yep.
And now they have Richard Sherman back there, who's second week. but someone that, right, most NFL teams didn't want at the beginning of the season. So, if you, and this kind of goes into the question that CJ proposed of who do I like more this week, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady? I'm going the latter. I'm going Tom Brady, even with this injury, because of, if you look at both of these games, right, just from a, comparison standpoint, we have a 52.5 implied game total and a 44.5 implied game total with Green Bay and Chicago. Division game, Green Bay and Chicago. And look, Aaron Rodgers is great, but Aaron Rodgers, like I think his best finish is QB8 on the year. And I have to double check that. I think it's around there. Yeah. Or QB5, excuse me. And look, we know what Aaron Rodgers can do, right? He is a great player. Having said that, Chicago's defense is much better, in my opinion, in my estimation, than what we have here, right? Like than Philadelphia. So I'd be going with Brady here. I know there's some concerns about his thumb, but at the same time, like what he does, like his floor games, what this season so far are not as potentially bad as Aaron Rodgers' floor games this year. So I do think that I would go with Tom Brady, to your point, over someone like Aaron Rodgers, even though if you have both of those guys in your team, you're doing pretty well.
That being said, I'm not so sure. Like Robbie Noble, our guy in the chat, says, it's a weird showdown for sure. Fade Brady. So I'm not saying fade Brady. Like I would want both quarterbacks in my lineup tonight. And obviously people will be going for the $1 million. There'll be differentiation. Inevitably, a lot of people are going to fade, one, if not both QBs, just to try and be different. But I bet most people will have both their quarterbacks in this lineup, in part because, again, going back to Brady, you don't know which way he's going to go. Like you don't know, is it a Godwin night? Is it an Evans night? Is it a Brown night? Or, you just sort of play it safe to some degree with Tom Brady because he could hit any one of them. That being said, Reid, based again on game script and what we think this game is going to be, I could absolutely make the argument that Jalen Hurts is going to be the better play than Tom Brady, and that he is going to, just because he's one, they don't have a rushing game to speak of. He is a guy who can carry the ball. His over under, somebody asked about that. It's 38.5 yards on the DK Sportsbook for tonight. Someone asking if you'd be more comfortable with his rushing over or his passing over. And I'll look up the passing over as well. But, let's see, his passing over is 282.5. So,
wow.
Which I don't know, feels a little bit low to me, honestly. Like I would be comfortable with that over more so than the rushing over, and obviously want your opinion on that. But I think Hurts, just because he's probably going to have to be playing from behind, he's probably going to be passing like crazy and probably looking in, DeVonta Smith and Zach Ertz's directions most, especially here tonight. I think it wouldn't surprise me at all if Jalen Hurts comes out in the end, not with a win, but with more fantasy points than Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if Jalen Hurts hasn't had lower than 21 DK fantasy points this season. That's his low. It's 21. The guy's averaging like 26 DKFP. So if you put him in your captain spot, you could arguably project him, put him in for like 40 points based on his average. And like, that's not to say that that's going to happen every single time, because it's a variant sport. It's an oblong ball. Anything can happen. And it's Thursday. It's a short week. I do agree with you. Look, and this number has increased from 278.5 to 282 over a span of, 8 hours. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are hitting the over here. What does that say? Look, okay, you can fade the public potentially, but again, like this is a Tampa Bay secondary cop that has given up 312 passing yards per game. And I believe around 7.5 or around there, like 7.2 yards per play, like per passing play. It's just a matter of putting those numbers together and saying, yeah, Jalen Hurts has to run too, right? Like Vita Vea, these guys are going to get a lot of pressure on him, and he's going to have to run. He's going to run a lot of RPOs. This guy runs in the red zone. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns right now. So yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be the better DFS play, and maybe even for season long, right? Like I have Jalen Hurts probably kind of around Brady. Like I have Brady like at 6 or 7, and I have Jalen Hurts right around there as well. So, and that again, right, when I'm doing my rankings, that's a matter of a touchdown potentially, or like 30 or 40 yards. So I have these guys really close.
Tampa, by the way, has allowed the most passing yards in the NFL. Now ranks 4th in completion percentage and passing touchdowns, maybe 3rd there as well. 1st in rush defense, as mentioned earlier. So don't expect it to be a huge night for Miles Sanders. It would surprise me. But that secondary, again, I think I used the word leaky earlier. Reid noted, obviously, all the injuries to starters out there for Tampa. There are going to be a lot of yards in this game for Jalen Hurts. Again, 282.5. Yeah, it's not a small number. I'd still lock it in. I'd feel better about that than Brady hitting the 300 plus. And the fact of the matter is, I think they both will hit 300 plus. But if I'm choosing between the two, I feel better about Jalen Hurts tonight. We can take a look here at this millionaire contest tonight, Reid, touch on some DFS as well. So obviously there is a lot on the line currently. Let's see, $15 to enter. We've already got north of 112,000 entries in this contest. And I'm sure there will be that many more in the few hours before lineups lock. You got 2 hours, 45 minutes. Tom Brady is the most expensive guy to captain him, almost 19K. Jalen Hurts is right behind him, almost 18. Then obviously you've got a couple of those receivers at Evans and Godwin, Smith, who I mentioned, Brown, Fournette, and so on. Again, no Rob Gronkowski, no Dallas Goedert, another positive COVID test for him. So he is not playing. Zach Ertz, if we're talking about the tight ends, I don't know if you feel how compelled you might feel to roster Cam Brate at 4,800 or to roster OJ Howard at 1,400 as a punt play, but Zach Ertz at $3,200, man. I mean, Zach, you look at his game log. I pulled up the Eagles DST for a second. Zach Ertz, you look at his game log. Recent weeks, 6 targets, 8 targets, 7 targets, and this is now Goddard is out. Like I realize he is going to be insanely chalky, especially at the price tag. So I'm not saying be smart, make sure you get Zach Ertz in there because you're gonna fool. No, everyone. And not literally, but everyone is going to have Zach Ertz tonight. Even still, I feel like you have to. I feel because this guy, I expect him to get 10 plus targets tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Yeah, I mean, he was getting production when Dallas Goedert was healthy, right? He was on the field. He's not as athletic, right? And he's not the first look, but he was a guy that was actually getting work. And we know what Zach Ertz can be, right? I think we were on maybe 2 weeks ago. I think we were doing a Phillies game. And Zach Ertz was a value play of mine and he scored right at that. And he was, close to, I think he was less than this. When you look at value plays, I definitely think that Zach Ertz is the play. It doesn't matter, right? If everyone's going to have him. He is someone that you fit in your lineup and you differentiate somewhere else. And that's the biggest misnomer about chalk is just because they're chalk, you don't have to fade them, right? You don't have to be differentiating the good plays because they're good plays. You can go elsewhere with your captain. Look, the best captains obviously in this game, because we just talked about it ad nauseum, are the quarterbacks, right? Because they can score the most points. We know what Jalen Hurts can do. He's probably going to be heavily rostered in that captain spot, but that's a spot where you can go contrarian, right? If you're playing Zach Ertz in the value spot, like everybody else in the flex, you're along with the 70-80% of people that are going to play Zach Ertz. Miles Sanders presents some value. Chris Godwin, right? Mike Evans, DeVonta Smith, because of this type of game. And look, Miles Sanders, I think, had his highest snap count last week. And that's promising. And even though this is a game where Tampa Bay is going to thwart the running game, doesn't mean that Miles Sanders can't get you 6, 7, 8 targets, 8 catches and 60 yards and a touchdown and be viable as a captain. If you're getting 20 plus points from Miles Sanders, and I forget his salary here, Kauf, so if you can pull it up, you're shooting for that 2.5, that 3x, right? That 2.5x at 600. Yeah. So if he gets you 18 to 20 points, right, that is value that you're going to have over everyone, because the overarching narrative about Miles Sanders in this running game is that it's not going to be there. It's just there's no way, no how. And what Tampa Bay does is it makes the passing game much more efficient for teams because they're so good against the run. But if you take a look at his last game, 5 targets, right? And he only got 6 yards, but 5 targets, 3 targets, 4 targets, right? So if he gets you up and they're playing from behind, which we think they are, if he gets you 6, 7 targets, I know Kenneth Gainwell is getting a lot of love, Miles Sanders is still the guy there that I would want. $9,900, that is cheap for Miles Sanders because we know what he can do. He just hasn't done it yet, but we know what he can do. Look at week 1 at 17.3, right? That's sort of where you potentially want him. If he can get you 15 attempts, 12 attempts for 50 yards, and he can tack on what he can do in the passing game and add a touchdown, I think that's where you want to differentiate other than Zach Ertz, right? Because Zach Ertz, I think, is a must play in the flex because he's so cheap.
5 catches for 6 yards, I would have thought is borderline impossible.
Well, yeah. And look, when you look at that game, because I watched it for a handful of minutes too, Miles Sanders towards the end, I believe of the first half, there was like 2 or 3 plays where he should have stayed in bounds, or maybe it was at the end of the game. So it was like one of those, right? Where he should have I think it was at the end of the game actually, where he should have just went down and he went out of bounds. And this was like 5, 6, 7 minutes left. And they pulled him and they put in Kenneth Gainwell because back-to-back plays in the same series, he ran out of bounds, essentially giving Carolina 5 timeouts. So, right, there's variance and all of these things, but I do like Miles Sanders as a contrarian play in the captain spot. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, I think are also guys that I'd want in the captain spot as contrarian plays. Because again, if we think that the quarterbacks are going to do well, then the pass catchers obviously can correlate.
I just brought up Gainwell's game log as well, just because it's, I'm not saying you got to play him at 2,400, 3,600 a captain, obviously, but he will. I mean, just look at the game log, at least 3 targets per. So it's not a big number. It's not a big number, but he does steal some of that action from Miles Sanders. Something to think about if you're thinking about, him versus a Sanders, that type of thing, and saving some money. I do wonder, though, again, going back to Zach Ertz, and it's not going to be the popular play. The unique lineups will probably be, I don't know what the percentage will be. It'll be lower than if you're, going with a Brady or a Fournette or a Hurts, obviously, in the captain spot, as I'm sure a lot of people will do. If you were to captain Zach Ertz here in this game, if you believe he's getting 10 plus targets and he's in for a big game and you captain him, I mean, that's still a $9,000 average that you've got around the rest of your lineup I mean, you can sprinkle in, I'm not going to build out a lineup here, but you can sprinkle in a lot of star power if you go with a route like that.
Oh yeah. There is an optimal lineup that I will be playing with Zach Ertz in the captain spot. Absolutely. Because exactly of what you're saying, Kauf. I mean, I think 10 targets is a little bullish. I think that's a little optimistic, but even if that's true, even if he gets you 8, 7 and 60, right? 5 and 50, and that's 50,
find the end zone.
Yeah. 5, that's what, 15, 16 points of a player who's potentially and then you're banking on, right, your flex team to get all of the points other than Zach Ertz, right? If you're getting a 15 point, and again, 15 points, that's 3x, guys, right? Shoot for that 2.5, 3x. He's at $4,800. If you can get you 15 points, which is not out of the question, like Kauf said, if he gets you 550 in a touch, which used to be Zach Ertz's floor.
Yeah, baseline.
Like his baseline, yeah. He gets, the leading role. And look, I mean, Levanta David is out too. Their linebacker. I know Devin White's more the coverage guy, but now you have Kevin Minter, who's probably taking over for Levanta David. Not the same player as David is. Trust me on this. Like Kevin Minter is a guy who's been in the league for a long time, played in Arizona, played in other places. He is not the player. Most people aren't the player of Levanta David. He is out. And that's a big thing. And guess who guards tight ends? It's the big nickel guys, the safeties, and the linebackers. Zach Ertz can win those battles.
CEH in the chat. Gio doesn't seem like a great play, right? How you feeling about Gio Bernard?
I think he is. I think he's well, not a great, I can take that back. He's not a great play. Like he's viable, but I would agree with CH that he's not a great play. But I do think that he is viable because of his role in this offense, 2-minute drill. Look, Rojo is a guy that's been sequestered to the bench. Like he doesn't have the catching upside that Gio does. He doesn't have the speed that Gio does. And he just doesn't have he's just not Leonard Fournette. Right, Leonard Fournette is the guy in this offense. He's getting the lion's share of the carries, the RB1 for this team. I think Gio Bernard presents more value, in my opinion, than a guy like Kenneth Gainwell and a guy like Rojo in this specific game because of what he does in the pass game. And he scores. Look at like the last 2 games that he's played in weeks 3 and 5. He gets a touchdown. Look at his fantasy points.
Yep.
I mean, to say that he's not a great play.
Back got you 20 points.
Yeah, he's viable, definitely. But he's $7,800, right? He's more expensive. So,
well, and that's
off that injury.
Spot. That's in the captain spot. He's 5,200.
Yeah, same thing, right? But like, I think that there are, I would rather go him than like a Kenneth Gainwell.
Plus, I mean, guy's got a mustache that'll make Tom Selleck blush.
No, if mustache worth points,
gorgeous.
He and Ted Lasso would be QB1.
It's a great point. All right, this may seem like some sort of a weird trick question, but I'm very serious in asking you this. If you're looking at specifically the wide receivers for this game, is there a world where you feel better about DeVonta Smith than you do any of that big 3 for Tampa Bay?
Yeah, there is a world. You look at the pass catchers. Well, you look at the target tree for Jalen Hurts. Yeah. Right? You got the game logs pulled up right there. I mean, when you talk about air yards and you talk about percentage of air yards for their team that have like 40% or more, there's like 8 players out there right now, and he's on that list. Right. So he's a guy that's getting the ball, and especially downfield. Look at his long reception, 17, 37, 19, 11, 9. This guy is good. This guy is really, really good. And he just hasn't, right, since week 1, found the end zone. But what you guys have to realize too is opportunities. If you're getting opportunities, the touchdowns will catch up, right? Look at Mark Andrews on Monday. Mm-hmm. Getting opportunities. And finally, boom, he blasts on Monday night because the opportunities are there, the touchdowns, because they're variant, because they're going elsewhere, because, Jalen Hurts, is going into the end zone, rushing to the end zone. He's not getting the touchdowns. The touchdowns will come. DeVonta Smith, I think, is a great play tonight. And especially if you want to go full team stack, I'd like this guy in my captain spot. If you want to go contrarian, absolutely. I think he's definitely there. I personally go Jalen Hurts, but I think DeVonta Smith is a guy who's getting opportunity, and he's making it like, look at this, 122 yards and 77. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you get the worst secondary in the NFL. The worst. Yeah, I think he's definitely viable.
So Hurts is your favorite captain play tonight?
I think so. I think, sort of the not so poor man's version of Lamar Jackson, because Jalen Hurts is really good. But what we saw with what he can do, that rushing upside, he could be below his passing, numbers at 2. He could pass for 200 yards. But what he can do with his legs, he's a cheat code. He's getting all those extra points with his legs. I think that's, you go with Jalen Hurts, and then you try and figure it out elsewhere.
So let's circle back to week 6. Obviously, it begins tonight with this Thursday night game, but taking a little look-see here, Reid, at what we've got coming up on Sunday, which is when, of course, the bulk of the action is. And you got a lot of interesting games, only a couple that have larger spreads. Let's see, the Rams favored by 10, the Meadowlands against the Giants. You got the Texans, 10-point dogs in Indianapolis. A lot of games that are basically pick'ems with 3-point spreads or 3.5, 2.5, somewhere in that vicinity as well. Which games in particular are you keying in on this weekend?
Yeah, so I talked about Tampa Bay tonight and the Kansas City Chiefs as a 2-team tease right there. You get both of those down to minus a half point at minus 120 on the DK Sportsbook. That's one that I do like, but one that I'm really interested in, I want to get your take on, Kauf, too, as well, is the Chargers at plus 2.5. I think the wrong team is favored here. I think the Chargers are a better team right now than Baltimore. We've seen Baltimore in the past squander away, leads in the fourth quarter. This defense, if you guys watched that Monday night game, Carson Wentz and the Colts, and not to besmirch the good name of the Indianapolis Colts, once led by Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, Carson Wentz is not them. Mm-hmm. I think Michael Pittman is a fantastic receiver. I think Zach Pascal is someone that if he's on your waiver wire, go pick him up, because he's the guy that goes downfield. He can win you weeks. Jonathan Taylor is great, but they ain't the Chargers. I think the Chargers right now, plus 2.5, minus 105. I think that's a solid bet. I think the wrong team is giving points. I think the Chargers should be giving points to the Ravens, even though it's at home. And look, right, it's at home, and usually when you have a home field advantage, it's a 3-point advantage. So they're essentially saying this is a pick 'em. Right, but you're getting the points at plus 2.5. If you feel more bullish than I do about the Chargers, the money line's at plus 130. But I like the Chargers plus 2.5.
So I'm inclined to agree with you. I definitely think the wrong team is favored. And like you said, it's largely a function of Baltimore being the home team here. But I guess I'm kind of more interested in what you think about the over-under. 52, while it's a big number, but it's not. Yeah, on the surface, you look at it and it's like, yeah, that feels about right. You think about what these offenses are capable of, what Baltimore did in the huge comeback last time out a few days ago. But that being said, I don't know. I don't think it's a hot take or anything like that. I think it's going to come under. I don't think they're reaching 52 in this game.
No, and the Chargers historically don't hit overs. Like they just don't. Right. Last week, 42 to 47. Okay, it was like that's an anomaly. But same time, I do agree with you. I think the under is definitely in play with this one. Monday night, short week for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson not practicing. He's probably going to play. But yeah, I like the under as well.
Why don't we mix in a few other things non-football before we get out of here, Reid, because we're down to our last 10 minutes or so. Of course, there's a pretty big baseball game going on tonight. One of the biggest in playoff history that's not, part of the World Series. And I say that just because we're talking about two of the best regular season teams ever, two teams that won north of 105 games. You got the Dodgers in San Fran, technically favored, even being the road team. LA, of course, won a World Series last time out, but just trying to survive, trying to escape the division series, a ridiculous matchup in the division series, these two teams. And as we know, LA had to go through the wild card round to get here, but LA, San Fran, game 5, winner take all. Winner moves on to face Atlanta in the National League Championship Series. Again, Dodgers get that 1.5 run line, that standard run line favorite here again on the road. What are your expectations for this one?
Yeah, I mean, Dodgers got a lot of bats, Koff.
Yeah.
like they just have such a good lineup. And this is going to hurt your feelings a little bit. Mookie Betts, this guy's got playoff experience. He's got playoff,
he's
running,
done a thing or two. He's won a couple,
coursing through his veins. And, and that's what you want in these in these matchups, even though they're on the road. I lean towards the Dodgers. I thought Urias would have gotten the start, but at the same time, look, and Logan Webb has been solid. He's been solid in the playoffs too.
Absolutely.
But I just think take a look at that line with the Dodgers, and I think it's just too strong even on the road. So I'm probably going to lean Dodgers. I'm excited. Look, for me, I thought the Rays were going to take that series from the Red Sox. Red Sox had a little magic. You called it. You called it. But I think I'm pretty confident on the Doyers here out of Los Angeles, winning in game 5 and advancing here.
I'll tell you what, I'll use my platform here for 30 seconds. If I think it's going to be the Dodgers too, and I think the Dodgers are then going to beat the Braves, and the Dodgers are going to get to the World Series, and the Red Sox are going to get to the World Series, because this is just it's just a perfect little check marks of fate along the way. For if we're to believe, I don't know if you believe in this type of thing, Reid, as a sports fan, but if we always like to talk ourselves into the whole team of destiny conversation. If so, this is not me saying yes, if the Red Sox are one of those teams of destiny, they felt like in 2013, for instance, in the wake of the Boston Marathon bombing and, vastly overachieving and winning the series when nobody thought they could, all of that. If we're to believe that teams of destiny exist, and maybe we don't, because certainly the Cardinals seemed like a team of destiny, and they axed their manager earlier today after winning 17 straight and losing the wild card round. So, maybe we don't believe in such a thing, but if we were to believe in teams of destiny, man, Red Sox knock off their arch rival, the Yankees, in the wild card round, knock off the division leading, American League leading 100 win Rays, Chaim Bloom's old team in round number 2. Now you got the Houston Astros, Alex Cora's old team. He masterminded, the cheating scandal, cost him a year of baseball, and now first year back out of suspension, he's got Houston again in the ALCS, only to then potentially face the Dodgers in the World Series with Mookie Betts and David Price on the other side. Yes, please. Oh, it's as a sports fan, narratives galore, man.
Yeah, so a couple of things you need to know about Koff, because I've been working with him for probably about a half a decade here. When he says 30 seconds, that really means 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
So for producers out there, when the guy says 30 seconds, make sure we have enough at the front and back end.
Start a clock in the corner of the screen.
Yeah, exactly. My 30-second rant, 2 minutes countdown. But you're right, man. And look, the Astros are dealing with some injuries too to their bullpen. So
Lance McCullers is going to be part of the series.
Yes, he is. And so don't, all I'll say is don't.
Or
read
is he
into-
not actually? Is he not? Maybe I'm getting that wrong.
I think, well, I think they're still pending like confirmation. So like, don't read everything. Don't believe everything you read on Twitter. That's all I'm going to say here.
Yeah.
But yeah, storylines galore. I'm excited. Like,
No,
this
he
is
will
the best
likely
time.
miss the entire ALCS.
Oh, okay. So I think it was a forearm strain, right? So
not great.
Yeah, it's not great. Look, so that plays into the narrative. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. But what I will say though, and this is, I can't coin this phrase. This is a JJ Zacharyson, at Late Round QB on Twitter, East Coast dads. I'm a dog dad, right? So, but East Coast dads, you got Thursday night football. It starts at what feels like midnight. And then you got this old baseball game that starts actually like at midnight. Yeah. It's going to be the worst.
Yeah, it's going to be a late night ahead. Yeah, this baseball game does not begin for another 3 hours and change, which is
like basically midnight.
It's going to be probably a 4-hour game because they all are, because it's baseball. Chris Sale, by the way, is going to start game 1 for the Red Sox. That's just come out. So obviously he got rocked by the Rays in the last round. He's taking the ball game 1 in Houston. That series begins tomorrow night, so I will have time to talk with Bukes and I think Lamarca about that tomorrow. Look forward to it. Nate Eovaldi in game 2. That is the plan. He has been, it's 2018 Nate Eovaldi again. He's turning back the clock. He's been awesome. Before we go, and we've, Bukes is in the chat. Good to see you, Bukes. Before we go, we got a couple minutes left. CJ Cup, Reid. CJ Cup is going on right now. And let's see, at the moment, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, they are your favorites to win. Again, for what that's worth, this is still day 1. Any main takeaways from what you've seen here in round 1?
Yeah, my boy Vic, love it. No, this is going to be a birdie fest. We saw Robert Streb go, I believe, 7 under in the first 6 holes. So that's going to be more to come. These are amazing players on a very easy course right now. You're seeing the scores. And I'm trying to, there's a lot of guys that's like are still in play, right? And this is 78 players in a no cut event. I think Xander is making his way, but you have Victor there at 4 under through 10. If he gets to 7, 8 under, he's right there. So I really like it. I think Victor is definitely in play. I think when you take a look at this type of course, it's going to be birdies. It's going to be birdies. So yeah, again, this is going to be a great weekend of sports, guys. This is a great month, right? We know October is a great month of sports. So just strap in, man. This is going to be a lot of fun. The CJ Cup. If you're yearning to go to Vegas, watch CJ Cup on the Golf Channel.
When am I not yearning to go to Vegas?
Oh man, golf in Vegas.
When are we taking a little staff? What retreat? How about that? A little staff retreat to Vegas. Go check out the new office out there for DraftKings and
wellness. Yes. Yes. Let's call it business.
Maybe hit up a sports book. I don't know. Hang out
out there. Our partner.
Hang out with Johnny Avello. Yeah. Stop by the VEASAN studios. There's a
Circa. Yeah. Well,
just saying. If the bosses are out there listening, seems like a great idea. I think we should do it. All right. You've got no Sims tonight, obviously, with Thursday night football on the way, coming your way in a couple hours. Reminder, get those lineups in for the Millionaire Contest. And of course, place your bets on the DK Sportsbook. We always encourage that you do. I will be back for the slate tomorrow in, 23 hours, hanging out with Bukes, who, again, good to see you in the chat, my friend. And Lamarca, I think will be with us. If not him, Gary, or just Bukes and I will hang out either way. Reid, I assume you'll be on the Sweat tomorrow morning?
Yes, I will.
Excellent. Sweat comes your way Monday through Friday, not unlike the slate. However, the Sweat is also available to you on Thursday nights ahead of Thursday night football, which means it will be tonight. Maybe Reid will be part of that as well. And also on Sundays, leading you into a whole big day of football. So this is fun. Thanks to Eamon, our producer, Daniel, our technical director, Reid for being Reid. I'm Adam. Thanks for hanging out with us, and enjoy the sports, because that's what this is. This is the Slate Sports Edition on Thursdays. We'll see you later.